So what we've learned is that the appetite for communications is really, really high, and people want to stay connected to their colleagues and the organization. And so where we would have, sort of quarterly team meetings, we've gone to doing them. Well, for a while we were doing them every week. We now do it bi-weekly.
Yeah.
But we've learned that it's just time to over communicate. And anytime you're going through a big change, I think you want to over communicate. And certainly this is about as big a change as anybody could ever experience in their lives or work careers. So, I would say the big macro lesson is over communicate.
I think what we've learned is that, ironically, as a company, we've joked that we're probably more disconnected physically than we have ever been, but we feel closer as a community than we ever have been. And it's because we've decided that in a time where we can't be together physically, we're increasing the frequency of our communication virtually, and as an entire organization. So we're doing a company-wide video session once a week right now, and literally we're all sitting in our homes, most of the time, and it's and people are getting a kick out of seeing everybody's backgrounds, and they all have questions about what's that white book on the bookshelf behind you.
Right.
But I think that look, we've learned that frequent, authentic, clear, and honest communication can help alleviate a lot of the stress that people are feeling right now. I think being transparent with your teams, being very empathetic and understanding what they're all facing. We have employees who are at home with small children that don't understand work schedules. We have employees at home who are isolated by themselves and are feeling lonely and completely disconnected. We have employees who have elderly parents living with them where they have that stress and all sorts of variations of that. So, leading through this and being a leader and a manager requires us to actually think about things we don't necessarily think about every day when we're sort of in the office environment. Maybe we should, but I think that just being empathetic and communicating a lot and really creating an environment where our employees can tell us what they need to get through this is very important. We spent some of the early weeks of the quarantine. We decided to go to Atlanta because we have two granddaughters there, and they kind of moved in with us.
Yeah.
And one night we were doing one of these weekly check-ins with all of our employees, and my 4-year-old granddaughter opened my office door. And we had been, it was early during this time, and we had been really reiterating to our employees that, and our leaders in particular, that people have small children. They don't understand what a 2:00 conference call is. If they need mom or they need dad, they need them. And that's just the way it is. And we're going to have to adjust our schedules to deal with it. And so I took the opportunity. I called her over and I said, come here. And I actually pulled her into the picture, and she said hello to everybody. And I said, see, even I have young children coming in, and that's just the way it is. So it was an interesting time. And then this morning, we had an executive session with one of our large service provider customers in Europe. And the CEO was on video, and I saw him get up, and he opened his office door, and then he came back over and sat down, and his dog jumped up in his lap while we were having the meeting. So we are learning a lot about each other, and I think it's become a much more informal, time for us to all communicate together.
I think as a leader, people are looking at you more than ever in this period of time. And as I've said, the 3 rules of leading through a crisis. One is communication, second is empathy, and third is vision, right? And, you communicate. I'm having 3 times the number of all company meetings than I had before the crisis. Wow, and I get all this super positive feedback. Oh, Pat, that was so compelling. I thought it was sort of boring. I don't think it was that different than what I said when we met last month, but right, you just communicate. One is people are struggling. And then you throw on that, the Minnesota situation, the Hong Kong situation. There's a lot of agony in the world, and they're looking for their leaders to really demonstrate, I'll say, true empathy in this period of time. But finally, painting a picture to the future, right? They want to know you're going somewhere, right? And I want to be part of your team because of the values, what I'm doing, who I'm working with, but I want to know that we're going somewhere that I care about. And to me, that's sort of, this period of time.
Episodes of the Looking Ahead podcast with Eric Kaplan are available on thinkahead.com and your favorite podcast platforms.